So this is my reflection on the COVID activities for this summer. And I'm gonna start with don't criticize, condemn, or complain. So I have a coworker who has vociferously disagreed with my recommendation and review plan and went to the principal to express her negative views on my methodology. I didn't object to her views. However, she also shared them with numerous staff members and used character attacks to fortify her opinions. As several coworkers came back to me to get my side of the situation, I decided not to engage and simply told them that her opinions are hers and I am focused on our student success. I refused to engage in any personality attacks or gossip, and in the end, several coworkers came back to me weeks later and noted how much respect they had for me and my approach and refusal to speak negatively about a staff member. When it comes to giving sincere appreciation, I would say that this summer I had the opportunity to go home to the Bahamas. The primary function of the trip was to attend the graduation ceremony of my niece from high school. However, at the event, I was fortunate enough to see many of my former teachers, several of whom were retired but were in attendance. Um, I expressed to one in particular, Mr. Roberts, my carpentry skills instructor, how grateful I was for him teaching me the basics of carpentry and construction. I have been able to fix and figure out so many things as a homeowner because I have a foundation of carpentry, which has saved me thousands of dollars. I was able to reflect and laugh about how he worked so diligently to get me through this course. As a student who was unmedicated with ADHD, I am amazed that he got me through all the activities, like working with saws and drills safely. We had a good time laughing and reflecting, and I was so appreciative of the chance to just tell him thank you as a former student who's now an adult with his own kids. When it comes to arousing in other people's an ego want, this is one where I think my job as a track coach probably came in. Because that's talking about tapping into not just individual success, but also success as a team. At the middle school level, track and field championships are won in a winner take all event at the end of the season. For my team to win, we need to amass points over the events, and sometimes strategy is more important than unabashed glory. I have had to talk my boys into competing in events they did not like just so we could score points. Uh, so, for instance, if I had one boy that I knew would win and another kid that may come third or fourth, I would take a kid on an event that they would medal in and put them in another event that they weren't as strong in, but I thought they can give us points. Um, but this has worked out for me twice where we won division championships. And luckily, you know, getting these kids to want to buy into what I- I'm trying to encourage them to do was successful. When it comes to making people like you, I think this is genuinely difficult for me as an ardent introvert. Meeting and engaging with new people causes fear and anxiety that I am still struggling to overcome. Um, I have started with the direct intention to have deep and introspective conversations with people. However, I have fallen short in making deep connections, even within our cohort group. I sincerely try to be open and engaging. However, I'm always afraid of sounding fake or shady, and can withdraw when faced with experiences that make me uncomfortable. Smile. The concept of smile for me is about showing genuine physical warmth and humanity to others. I would like to think that every day I meet my students at the door, and I have adopted this concept of greeting them with a smile, which disarms them and makes them know that my class not only they're welcome, but it's also about showing them that it's a safe place. I do remember that during the pandemic, we were all wearing masks, and you couldn't see each other's facial expressions, and there were really no social cues, and that became a hard time for the kids just to express themselves um, to me because they couldn't see that I was genuinely interested. They and I could not really show the warmth and joy that we can do sometimes that we can now. I have found that smiling with my kids helps build up relationships. I am aware that a lot of these students don't have male figures in their life, and being a male teacher is kind of rare these days. And so I need to disarm my kids. I have to let them know that they are safe with me. And so a smile does that better than almost anything else. Ah, remembering someone's name, that is hard for me. As someone who is dyslexic and has ADHD, remembering people's name is hard. Sometimes it's bad how hard it is for me to focus and connect names and faces. Um, we have a new teacher from the Philippines, and it took me 6 months to pronounce his name because the way it's spelled and the way it's pronounced were different. Um, but when I did make a mistake of calling his name, Mr. Hines was brave enough after a few months to pull me aside and say, "Hey, when you mispronounce my name, the kids are making fun of my name because you're calling it wrong," and that hit me. That hurt me. The fact that my my actions was causing him discomfort uh, really hit me hard, and I resolved that, hey, no matter what, I'm gonna get it right. um, and so, I've tried better to learn my students' names and my coworkers' names, but teaching can be so individualistic. Like a sixth grade teacher and I may actually never have any interactions all school year, but I have found that it's important to know the names of my custodians and my coworkers, and if only if it's in a passing greeting, let them know that, hey, I'm taking the effort to get to know you a little bit. Um, Being a good listener or encouraging others to talk about themselves is not hard for me. As someone who does not necessarily want the spotlight, I find it easy to listen to others. The hard part is me listening and retaining and connecting with them. But I'm happy to encourage others to talk about themselves and drive the conversation. Um, I don't know if it's always sincere or rather just a way for me to avoid talking with myself. Um, but I have found that in the first few weeks of school, just talking intently up to my students about their situations has given me a level of insight that has been missing in prior years. This year, I was intentional about asking my kids about their home life, and I found out I have, 8 kids that are foster kids, and this is all within the first week of school. Whereas, and that changes just so much about understanding how they behave and their triggers. And so, um, I even now have like a little lunch group where a lot of my kids sit with me at lunch, and we try to get to know each other. It's not something I'm super comfortable with because these kids share stuff that I don't really want to hear, but I think it's important as connections. Talking in terms of others' interests. Um, this concept really speaks to understanding other people's perspective, finding out what their goals and desires are, and for what specific situations that we can align our goals. I have a new co-teacher this year, and there is a cultural difference between us. However, I have tried really to empower him not just to teach the concepts the way I teach it, um, even though my methodology has proven successful, I want him to be his own individual, and I want to learn from him because we all have things that we can uplift each other's with. Um, when this comes to that, I want our relationship to be one where we're exchanging ideas, we're creating shared experience for us as coworkers. And even though we teach the same thing, there shouldn't be a hierarchy and a one-way flow. I am hoping that this new way of opening up an exchange will help us build trust, and he will be comfortable in expressing when he needs help, or even comfortable enough to correct me because the stark reality is that I have been in a rut in my teaching style because I've always been the person to teach others and to lead the science department. And so I'm really looking forward to that exchange of ideas this year, making the other feel important. Um, One of the things I don't struggle with is sharing glory or even passing the glory on. And that might just be because I'm not looking to be in the spotlight. Um, for Teachers Appreciation last year, it became apparent that the students were not going to show the level of appreciation to my teammates that I thought was sufficient for the amount of work that they do. So I went out and I bought these big thank you cards for all my co-teachers, the 7 of them, and I had the students write messages and notes in this card, um, and I made a big fanfare of having students deliver them to their classrooms during this week. Um, they didn't even know I was behind it, and I made sure they did not know. But it was so wonderful to see the teachers really light up when they read the notes. In particular, one of my coworkers, Mr. Tanner, who is probably one of the gruffiest, toughest military man that I've ever known. He came to me after school so excited. Mr. Smith, the kids bought me this card and they signed it and they were telling me but how much they like. And he said, it was the first time in his like 13 years of teaching that the kids had really done anything for him like this. And I was so happy to share that experience because it made him feel important because he is, and we all are. Win people to your way of thinking. The best way to the best arguments are ones that you can avoid. Last year, I had a coworker, like I said, not develop a good cohesive working relationship, um, which is due to the fact that she thought we were in competition rather than partners. Every time I would relay activities or to try help her, it just was not going to work. Even though the data showed that her students were not getting the concepts and not succeeding through the lessons that they should, it became apparent that any suggestions that came from me would lead to an argument. To combat this, I started to relate any alterations necessary uh, to her through the instructional coach, and I found that when the information was not coming directly from me, she was more open to receiving it. And even though I did not have that crucial conversation with her, um, there were definitely some changes that benefited the kids and it allowed me to avoid an argument. Showing respect for others' opinions. As a married man who wants to stay married, I've learned that saying you're wrong to my wife is not a good survival tactic. However, she knows me so well that patronizing her is equally as dangerous. Um, and so I found that in conversations with my wife, not only does I don't need to have to be right. She doesn't want to be right. She just wants to know that she is heard and accounted for in the decisions of our family. Generally speaking, if we disagree on an action, I try to make sure she's heard, and where compromise is possible, we're definitely going to compromise. Uh, I have found that when dealing with my students, most of the emotionally charged situations can be de-escalated by just listening to their point of view. Even when they're wrong, for the most part, they just want to be heard. And when heard, they can be reasoned with. This is not a foolproof concept in middle school. However, I find that most of my students, even the problematic ones, they tend not to disrespect me or my classroom simply because they know I'm going to listen to their side with an open mind.